Well, I gotta work tomorrow on a Saturday, usually off. It'll be okay. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it, but I don't want my boss to know that. Um, so I'm gonna drink a little early so I don't get too messed up. And I didn't want to open this one. Okay. Cheers. So I don't know what to talk about first. Um, I wanted to add a little to my Beast review. I watched the special features and they're pretty good. The special effects, the makeup effects, they show them a lot more in the special features, and you don't see them as good in the movie. I mean, you see them, but they don't dwell on them. But man, they put a lot of work into those special effects. I wish they would have shown them more because they're good, like dead bodies, and they do show some slash throats, but you see more in detail in the special features, man, and they should have shown them more. That's about it. So I got Acción Mutante today from Severin, Alex de la Iglesia's first full-length feature film. Dude, this is like $50, man, and that's just too much, I think. But but man, I got Ultra HD, but I don't have the HD TV. But the Blu-ray has, man, so many features, interviews. Yeah. It says like Mission Impossible on acid. It's violent, funny, and filled with bad taste. From the opening credits, you know you're watching something special. Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't so, it's so good. It's worth it to me to get it. So I'll definitely review this along with all the other Alex de la Iglesia films I've been doing. But man, I got it. So this is one I'm really excited about because I haven't seen it since I had like a really bad VHS dub of it, and that's like over 10 years ago, and I don't even it just finally died. So mutante. You see that in the movie. And I got the Severin sticker, and I ordered an Eaten Alive sticker. So awesome. I thought it'd be smaller, but it's so good. And then I don't even want to see the movie, but the sticker, this Cobra ripoff, it's so awesome. What does it say? Aggression is biological. It grabs us sooner or later. That just looks so cool. So awesome. Gotta drink to that. So I'm gonna do a book review of The Pack by David Fisher. Just soak that one in, baby. So I'll read the back. In the August heat, they frolicked on the beaches, fetched sticks, played with children. Then the summer dwellers left, abandoning them to the island's harsh winter. Ravenous hunger and violent rage have brought them together under a cunning, ferocious leader. Man has betrayed his best friend. Now the dogs will have their day. Bitter winter and the dogs of summer have grown hungry and vicious. This edition of David Fisher's The Pack 1976 features a new introduction by Will Erickson and the original cover painting by Lydia Rosier. Yeah. So I haven't read the Paperbacks from Hell book, but I've been buying the books that they've been republishing. And this is the first one I read after reading Thor. Like, after I read Thor, I was like, I want to read another dog book. And then I was like, do I have any? And then I was like, oh, I got The Pack. And right off, I'll tell you, this is not as good as Thor, but it is good. And I read it in like 4 days, and the cover painting really helps a good book. I mean, this isn't great, but it wasn't. Man, I wish I could remember the names of all the. I mean, I can remember the writers like Edward Lee. He's horrible. Um, Kuntz. And, okay. This just tells a quick, tight, uh, focused story. It's not super gory. I thought there's a movie, so I've seen the movie, and the movie's nothing like the book. The book's nothing like the movie. So I envision like the pack of wild dogs like stalking and killing people in the night, like over a couple of days, maybe like 2 days, and then finally they hunt down the pack. But no, this is more like Night of the Living Dead with dogs. It's like a siege horror action film. So there's an island called Barrow Island off the coast of Rhode Island, and this guy and his family, Larry and Diane Hardman, and they have 2 kids and a little dog named Dopey. They're going to visit his parents, and he's trying to convince them to leave the island because they're getting older, and it's just a harsh life on the island, it seems. And that's one thing. Reading it, I was like, what would it be like to live on an island? It'd just be weird. I mean, if you're born into it, then you're used to it. But if you're not, it's just that was cool. So they go to visit his parents, and it's like a winter vacation, but also trying to convince his parents. And then the dogs attack, and it's sad because they say like how could people do this? The summer vacationers, they'll get a dog and then they'll just leave it. They'll abandon it and leave it there on the island. So the dogs that have survived, they formed a pack led by a German Shepherd, just like Thor. But he's definitely not a good dog. These are bad dogs. So they're starving. They're just eating whatever they can catch, and it's really cold. And it starts off, a family is leaving, and they leave a dog, and it joins the pack. And the pack, they take it in, man, and like it says, it's simple. The little dog needed protection. The pack provided it. And then it says, like, but it didn't matter. He's just too small and weak, and there wasn't enough food for him, and he dies. But then they say, like the little dogs die, but for some reason there's a dachshund, and he survives. And there's like an Irish setter, a wolfhound, some like a lab, a retriever, some other dog. Just they don't look like that. They're like nice looking dogs that just had to turn savage. Yeah, and the dachshund, it's just weird that a dachshund is part of like a vicious, ravenous pack of dogs. And then an old guy on the island gets attacked. His wife runs to the Hardin household. Is that what? The Hardman. And so Larry and his dad go out to find out what's going on, and then they get attacked. And then that's I don't want to tell you anymore. Well, I'll tell you a little more. Like when they're in deep trouble, Larry calls his brother Kenny, and they're like total polar opposites. And he doesn't want his help, but he's in life or death. So that's a whole another story of his brother Kenny trying to get to the island, which was pretty good now that I've finished it and look back on it. And that was a strange ending for his brother, like what happens to him. David Fisher, he's a good writer. I want to look up. I mean, if he wrote other horror, maybe I would read it. But I'm betting this is his only book he wrote. But I'll look him up. Oh yeah, again, I cannot forget this. So like they call the mainland police department for help, and the guy's like, there's a storm, there's other people in trouble. And then later on, the cop is like thinking of like, okay, we got like the Coast Guard is helping like these people, and then someone had called in like a Bigfoot sighting. Also, Bigfoot sighting. So they just threw that in there. It never comes back again. Like the Bigfoot doesn't come out. I saw Bigfoot. I was like, that's awesome. It's not super gory. It's not like a Sean Hudson or Guy and Smith or Layman. But when there is violence, it's not graphically described, but it's good enough. Like he tells you like there's blood and flesh ripping and all that. Again, it's not what I thought it was going to be, but it was pretty good. I got into it and never really dragged. It's only 214 pages. So, and yeah, there's a movie. The movie's pretty good, but it's not like the book. So The Pack. Should you read it? Okay. You should, if you're gonna like pick up a book, definitely get a layman book first, or Thor. Oh, Thor's just too expensive. But if you're like really into these paperbacks from hell, I have another one. I want to get. There's one called Light Blood. That one sounds really good. A Vietnam vet they couldn't kill against a vampire army that cannot die. I was like, oh, man, let me get that. But back to The Pack. If you're caught up, oh man, I got so many books. If you're caught up in all your reading and you just want to read a good old fashioned, I want to say 80s, but it's not 80s. If you want to read a good old fashioned like late 70s horror novel, yeah, get The Pack. And then just but then the cover art is like, I'm never getting rid of this. Maybe if I read it again and just stare at the cover for a long time, make a copy of it, because it is so cool. It just gives you so many ideas and like nightmarish scenarios of what The Pack could be. Maybe don't even read the book, just make up your own story from this. But I'm glad I read it, and I'm like, there's no way I couldn't read it unless it just totally sucked, and it doesn't. It doesn't drag. It doesn't go off. And it's actually about what it says it's about. It's not trying to fool you. So I'll give The Pack a solid 3 out of 5. Manos Hands of Fate. And thankfully, it's not as good as Thor, but just maybe 2 steps down from Thor. Because Thor was so good, and I didn't just want to dive into another shitty book. So The Pack is like kind of like a good come down from Thor. And so like now I've read like a book a week for the last 2 weeks. I wanted to jump into something else, so I started Subhuman by Michael McBride. And this is a book I put on my Amazon wish list, and then I found it at a thrift store. And I was like, okay, man. Like, I think it's like $1. So I'll read the back of this one. They are not human. At a research station in Antarctica, 5 of the world's top scientists have been brought together to solve one of the greatest mysteries in human history. Their subject, however, is anything but human. They are not natural. Deep beneath the ice, the submerged ruins of a lost civilization hold the key to the strange mutations that each scientist has encountered across the globe. A misshapen skull in Russia, the grotesque carvings of a lost race in Peru, the mummified remains of a humanoid monstrosity in Egypt. They are not friendly. When a series of sound waves trigger the ancient organisms, a new kind of evolution begins. Latching on to a human host, crossbreeding with human DNA, a long-extinct life form is reborn. Its kind has not walked the earth for thousands of years. Its instincts are fiercer and more savage than any predator alive. And its prey are the scientists who unleashed it, the humans who spawned it, and the tender living flesh on which it feeds. Oh man, I thought I was going to stumble on that one. But we'll see what Subhuman holds. So far it's okay, and I'll see you next review. Later.